Hey everybody, how is it going? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about the commodities. The commodity indexes are just screaming higher, and I think they are potentially setting up for a very nice trade. And then after I talk about the commodities, I want to get into my trading activities. So if you want to see if I made any money trading today, make sure you stick around for that. But getting back to this chart right here, this is the Invesco Commodity Tracking ETF. The symbol is DBC, and I actually have the weekly chart up right now, just showing you how big of a move we are having this week in commodities. A normal week, let's just go to this one right here. The low was 1394 and the high was 1440. So that ends up being about a move of about 3% for the entire week. And if we look at this week's price action, the low is, if I can get my cursor on there, the low has been 2375 and the high 2631. So that equates to about a 11% range for this candle. So these things I think are starting to go parabolic. What I would really like to see is a nice big green, one more nice big green candle, and I would love to buy some put options on the DBC if that happens. With everything that's going on in the Ukraine, I think everything is ripe for this potential setup to happen. If things escalate over there, there's already been a ton of pressure put on commodities, but if things escalate over at the Ukraine, it could end up just being, that big parabolic blow off top. And I don't want to say this is going to be a top in commodities, but I think it could be a very nice short-term trading opportunity. So that's what I'm looking at for the DBC. Now, I don't know what strike price I'll end up buying puts at. It depends on, how the price action, ends up being, if this even happens. I'm just saying, but you have to be prepared for this scenario and have a little bit of a plan in case that does happen. And if we get a big move up, I'll have to kind of play it by ear on which strike I want to grab. I want to grab pretty close to the money when I do it, and I'll probably end up buying options maybe a couple of weeks out, because I do think it won't be long before we get a sharp reversal in the DBC if this kind of setup does end up happening. Let me get this out of the way real quick. But I just think that's a beautiful setup happening in the DBC. Now, I don't think this is going to be a long-term top. Who knows what's going to happen. But just looking at some of the commodities out there, let's look at the steel sector first. Looking at steel, we can see that steel is just coming out of this very nice base. It hasn't really broken out yet, but it's right on the brink of it. And, I don't think that this is looking, toppy at all. I think this looks like it's probably just going to have some continuation to the upside. So I think steel looks pretty good. Let's look at the 2020. Let's look at oil. You can see oil has had an extended run, of course. We all know that, but oil might be looking at the toppiest out of all of the commodities out there. Pretty close, but I don't think oil has really topped out. It might in the short term. It could definitely pull back and still have a very nice uptrend still intact. Let's take a look at copper. I believe that's 1090. If we take a look at copper, you can see copper is coming out of a very nice rounded bottom on the weekly formation. I think I did a video on this sector last week, and it looks like copper is going to be breaking out to a new high. So copper looks very healthy. Let's take a look at 1080. Let's take a look at aluminum, or aluminum as some people call it. But you can see aluminum is definitely getting pretty toppy, at least right for a short-term pullback. But aluminum certainly looks strong. Let's take a look at the agriculture inputs. You can see this one is definitely starting to really ramp up and maybe get a little toppy in the short term. So agriculture looks like it could be potentially topping out in the short term. And one that definitely looks like it could be topping out is another sector that I did a video on last week is coal. Coal is absolutely going parabolic. I mean, this thing is bananas. Coal itself might be enough to bring down the commodities index, over another week or two. But I think coal is looking absolutely toppy right here. And looking at some of the stocks in this sector, BTU, Peabody Energy. I mean, this thing is absolutely screaming. Another one is HNRG. This one has been screaming over the last few weeks. I think ARLP, that one definitely broke that trend line that I was looking at last week and had a nice sharp move up. Another one is METC. You can see this one broke that trend line as well and had a big sharp move up. So these things are certainly getting rather toppy in the short term. Another one is CEIX. Let's see how that one's done. Yeah, that one broke that trend line as well. I mean, these things have just been screaming. They're getting tired. I'm not saying it's going to be the end of the run for these completely, but they are definitely getting tired. CEIX coming up into this long-term resistance. So if that kind of trade sets up, hopefully I'd like to get one more big up week in the DBC before I try to get in any of those puts. But man, these things are starting to look rather toppy, and with everything that's going on in the Ukraine, that could end up just giving it one more big blast higher, before it kind of washes out in the short term. But definitely some nice trades setting up. But let's get into my trading activity. Well, you know what? I lied. I actually have a few other charts I want to show you of some very nice potential trades setting up before I get to my trading activity. I'll try to go through them rather quick, but I think a lot of these are setting up very nicely. Most of them are in the defense sector, so for obvious reasons, they are under accumulation. The first one I want to talk about is Lockheed Martin, ticker symbol LMT. You can see Lockheed Martin has just been screaming higher. Now, the difference between this type of chart and those other charts that I was talking about is we are having some consolidation right here near the highs. So they've tried to sell it down over the last couple of days, but buyers have stepped in to soak up all of that supply. And once all that supply is gone, chances are we're going to get some higher prices. And if we get a break above 459.50, I think it's going to be a very nice tradable opportunity to catch some more continuation to the upside. So I think Lockheed Martin is setting up very, very nicely. Another one in this sector is Northrop Grumman, ticker symbol NOC. You can see the very same setup in NOC. I have a alert set up if we get a break above 458, and if that happens, I think we should have some continuation to the upside in Northrop Grumman as well. So very nice trades setting up in that one. Another one that I like is Raytheon, RTX. We can see Raytheon has been pulling back, but it came all the way down to the 8-period exponential moving average and found some support. So what you do is you go to that 15-minute chart, you slap a trend line on it, and then you put an alert slightly above it, and if you get a break above it, then that's your signal to get into this trade. If this does end up being the next move up, this has a potential for a pretty nice size gain. And if you get a little bit of a false break where it breaks above it and then rolls over rather quick, the loss will end up being rather small. So I like these kind of trade setups just because the risk reward is in the proportion where you want it. But let's go back to the daily chart. Another one in this sector doesn't look as good as the other ones, but just shows you how strong this sector is. I mean, as far as the price movement, it's still really strong, but as far as the trading setup, I don't see a real well-defined entry unless you just want to jump in now on that breakout and just see if it keeps going. But definitely a lot of buying coming into this sector. So nice looking chart there. Another one I like is PAN-W, Palo Alto Networks, making a similar setup as Raytheon is doing. Nice sharp move up and getting a low volume pullback. Go to that 15-minute chart and just slap a trend line on it, and put your alert above that trend line, and you are good to go on these type of trades. So another nice risk reward trade setup in PAN-W. And the last one I want to talk about is Mattel. These guys are not in the defense sector, even though they probably do have, G.I. Joes or something. I don't know if that would be considered in the defense sector, but this one is setting up very nicely. Big sharp move up, and it's just not being sold up. It's being accumulated, and if we get a break above 25.75, I think this one has a very good chance of starting that next move up. All right, well, getting into my trading activity, I only made one day trade today, and it was an INDO, and it was a pretty good trade. But I think I've traded this 3 times over the last week or so, and man, just looking at this chart, it looks like I probably should have just bought in and just held, but the reason why you don't do that is because 99 out of 100 chart patterns don't look like this, and if you get in the habit of just holding on to these gap and go type stocks, you're probably going to end up losing money over the long term because most of them just kind of fade down. But INDO has been an absolute beast over this last week and a half or so. But hey, let's get into this trade. Let's go to the minute chart. I'll show you how this one shaped up real quick. Let me situate this chart so we can see it a little bit better. Now, in case you're kind of new to my channel, I like to trade these gap and go strategies where stock gaps up. I hopefully like to see a little bit of a pullback and then a ceiling forms, and then I like to buy above that ceiling and try to catch that next continuation move up. So I bought into INDO at $21.21. I saw this little ceiling forming, and I bought in right about here, I think. And maybe just a tiny bit lower. It was 21.21. It was right there, kind of meandered around for a couple of minutes, and then it exploded, and I ended up taking my profit at $23.45. So probably right about here, just as it was breaking out to a new high or so. Well, it's probably a little bit higher than that. But you can see that the stock went quite a bit higher, actually made it to a high of 25, actually over 25, and you know, it continued to actually move higher. But it's a pretty nice trade for me. I ended up capturing about 9% on it, and that's usually a little bit more than what I end up getting, but this thing just exploded on this candle right here, and you know, I just took my profit as it was going up, and ended up being a pretty decent trade. So nice trade on INDO. You know what, let me give you an update on my swing trade that I got going on right now. I am in CTRM. This thing is just teasing me with a breakout. Let me get that line out of there so we can see it a little bit better. But this is one of those J-hook type of patterns that are forming. The longer that it kind of goes sideways, the more worried I get. You know, I should be getting some follow through by now, but the market has been pretty volatile over these last couple of days. It has teased breaking out today, but it just ended up tucking its head right back in. So still a nice looking pattern. I'm still hopeful that we're going to get some follow through to the upside. Placing my stop below the 21 period exponential moving average, so I'm protecting capital. But CTRM, for the most part, is looking okay. It's just getting a little bit frustrating that it hasn't broken out yet. But if it breaks out tomorrow, all is forgiven. You know, if I get a nice decent profit tomorrow, you know, no hard feelings with CTRM. But that's all I have for this video. If you guys have any questions, leave it for me down there in the comment section, or if you see any good trades setting up, you can leave that down there as well. Always appreciate any of the tips you guys give me. I look into every single one of them. But that's it. I'm going to end the video right there. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. And until next time, take care, everybody.